She had a gift. She could see who'd die next by the red cap they wore, until one chilling day, she saw herself wearing it. Watch what happened. In the small town of Umadam, hidden away behind red dust roads and thick cashew trees, lived a quiet young woman named Amaka. Amaka was not like the other girls in the village. She did not go for dances at the village square or chase after boys who had returned from the city with loud cars and foreign accents. Instead, she kept to herself, her eyes always scanning, her mouth mostly sealed. People called her strange, some called her cursed. But no one knew the truth. Amaka had a gift, or a curse, depending on how you saw it. She could see death before it came. Not in dreams. Not in riddles. But in something more terrifying, a red cap. This wasn't the type of red cap the titled men wore, with pride and tradition. No. This one was different. It was a spiritual red cap, dull in color, soaked in an unseen blood, and heavy with the weight of the spirit world. Only Amaka could see it. It would appear, slowly, on a person's head. Sometimes faint at first, like a shadow. Other times, bright and strong, sitting with authority like a crown from the ancestors. Once Amaka saw the cap, she knew. That person would die. Not in weeks. Not in months. Death was close, within days, sometimes hours. And so, each time she saw the cap on someone, she would gather courage and approach them quietly. "You will die soon," she would whisper, her eyes never leaving theirs. At first, the people thought she was mad. That she wanted attention. But then, one by one, the people she spoke to sta. Some in their sleep. Some by accidents. Some simply dropped like a goat struck by lightning. Soon, fear spread. Children were pulled away from her path. Mothers whispered and prayed when she walked past. Men avoided her eyes, afraid they might see the red cap reflecting in her gaze. One hot Harmattan morning, Amaka stepped out to fetch water from the stream. The air was thick and silent, birds quiet, as if something had paused the world. That's when she saw him, Chitty, the strong palm wine tapper, known for climbing trees like a lizard. He was walking toward the forest with his calabash swinging beside him. Amaka froze. On Chitty's head sat the red cap, glowing faintly in the early sun. Her heart pounded. "Chitty," she called, her voice sharp like a whip. He turned, surprised to see her so agitated. "What is it, Amaka?" She walked up slowly, her eyes never leaving the cap. "You will die today." Chitty laughed, the way a man who didn't believe in fear would laugh. "Death? Today? I still have 3 trees to tap. Come on, Amaka, stop this thing you do." Amaka said nothing more. She only stared, her face blank. By midday, news had spread. Chitty had fallen from the tallest palm tree in the forest. His neck snapped like dry firewood. His calabash shattered beside him. After that, no one doubted Amaka again. She became both feared and needed. Mothers begged her to check their children. Fathers paid her with goats and yams to tell them if they were safe. But she never asked for anything. She did not want the gift. It was too heavy. One rainy evening, Amaka was sitting under the thatched shed behind her hut, staring into the storm, when she saw a figure walking toward her. It was Matsi Okonkwo, the oldest man in Umadam. He had lived through wars, hunger, and even the white man's confusion. He stood before her and asked, "Do I wear it?" Amaka's eyes scanned him carefully. She shook her head. "Not yet." He smiled and nodded. "Good." Then he sat with her in silence, the rain whispering secrets only they could hear. But things changed the day she saw the cap on someone she loved. It was Neka, her younger sister. Sweet, wild Neka who always ran barefoot, who laughed like the river and danced like fireflies. That morning, Amaka saw the cap on her head, bright and sharp like a fresh wound. Her chest tightened. She couldn't breathe. She called her sister inside, shut the door, and told her the truth. "You must not go out today. Promise me." Neka, scared, promised. But fate is not so easily tricked. That evening, as twilight crawled over Umadam like a tired lizard, thunder cracked in the sky. The wind came restless, blowing open windows and stirring cooking fires. Amaka sat on the mud floor of their hut, her arms wrapped around Neka like a mother hen shielding her chick. But the spirit of death does not knock. A loud cry came from outside, the kind that grabs your heart and squeezes. A child had fallen into the river. Without thinking, Neka jumped up. "Wait!" Amaka shouted, grabbing her wrist. "There's no time." Neka screamed. "It's Adi's son. I can't let him die." Before Amaka could move, Neka was gone, her footsteps pounding into the wet ground, hair flying behind her like a flag in battle. Amaka ran after her, barefoot, breath catching with every step. The cap on Neka's head had grown darker. Heavier. It pulsed, as if alive. She reached the riverbank just as Neka dove in, her small body slicing into the muddy waters. The villagers gathered, shouting, some crying. The boy's head bobbed once, then disappeared under a swell. Neka reached him. She held him. She pushed him toward the edge, and strong hands pulled him out. The crowd erupted in relief. But Neka did not come out. Amaka screamed. She threw herself into the river, hands clawing, legs kicking, water choking her. But the river gave nothing back. It swallowed Neka, cap and all. For 3 days they searched. On the 4th morning, her body floated to the surface, her eyes closed, lips parted as if whispering to someone on the other side. Amaka changed after that. She no longer warned people. She no longer whispered death into trembling ears. She stayed silent, her eyes always watching. People noticed, but no one dared ask why. Some believed she was angry. Others said she had made a deal with death. But Amaka knew the truth, death had taken what it wanted. And now, it didn't wait for her permission. Then one day, months later, as the harmattan dust returned and coated the land in dryness and sorrow, something strange happened. She woke up and looked in her small mirror. There it was. The red cap. On her own head. It sat gently at first, like a resting bird. But it was there. Clear as moonlight. She didn't panic. She didn't cry. She just sat there, staring at her reflection, heart as calm as a silent shrine. Amaka stood from her mat slowly, the way an old woman rises, not because her bones ached, but because she was careful. Every step she took that morning was deliberate. She fetched water. She swept the compound. She fed the chickens. The red cap didn't fade. It didn't shift. It just sat there on her head, like a final crown. She didn't tell anyone. Not even Mama Ebra, her closest companion after Neka died. Not even little Kamsi, the boy who followed her everywhere since she saved him from falling into the well. No tears. No goodbyes. Instead, she went to the shrine of Ani, the earth goddess. It was quiet there, surrounded by thick trees and soft chanting wind. The shrine keeper, Dyke, looked up when she entered. He was a man of few words, but he saw it. He saw the way she moved. "Is it time?" he asked, voice low like thunder far away. She nodded. He lit a fire with kola nut and bitter leaf. He said a prayer in a tongue older than the village itself. Then he looked her in the eye. "What do you want, Amaka?" She hesitated. "To speak with the spirit that gave me the sight." Dyke paused, then nodded once. That night, Amaka sat alone in the shrine. Candles flickered. Shadows danced across her face. The red cap pulsed softly, matching the beat of her heart. And then, it came. A wind. A whisper. A presence. The air grew cold. The shrine darkened, though the candles still burned. From the shadows stepped a woman. She looked like Amaka. Same eyes. Same mouth. But older. And her voice, when she spoke, was like a river moving through bones. "You called me." Amaka swallowed. "Why did you choose me?" The spirit smiled. "You were born on a market day, under a blood moon. The sight was yours from your first cry. I didn't ask for it. No one ever does." Amaka's voice broke. "Why Neka? Why my sister?" The spirit tilted her head. "Because she was light. And light burns fast." Amaka shook her head. "I wanted to end. The sight. The cap. everything. Silence fell. Then the spirit stepped forward and placed her hand on Amaka's head, right on the cap. "You can give it back," she said. "But something must take its place." Amaka closed her eyes. "I accept." The spirit vanished. The candles went out. And Amaka collapsed to the ground, the cap slipping off her head and turning into smoke. By morning, they found her lying before the shrine, breathing, barely. She was alive. But different. Her eyes no longer searched for death. Her voice no longer held the weight of prophecy. She had given up the sight. But death never leaves empty-handed. After that morning, Amaka changed. The villagers noticed first. She walked with a lightness they hadn't seen in years. Her eyes, once shadowed and sharp like a hawk's, were softer now. Children came near her again. Women greeted her with smiles instead of prayers under their breath. Even the trees around her compound seemed less still. But peace never stays too long in places where spirits once drank. 3 weeks passed. Then 4. Then, one night, as the moon sat fat and golden over Umidim, a dream came to Amaka. But it was more than a dream. She stood in the same shrine, but everything was ash. The trees had died. The roof had fallen. The spirit woman stood again before her, but this time, she did not smile. "You gave back the sight," she said. Amaka nodded. "But you forgot," the spirit whispered. "Something must take its place." Then she raised her hand, and behind her, a door appeared. Slowly, it opened. And Amaka saw them. All the souls she had warned. All the ones who had died with her whisper in their ears. They stood silent, their eyes hollow, their mouths bleeding red dust. Among them was Neka, her red cap blazing like the sun. "You do not see death anymore," the spirit said. "But now, you must carry them." Amaka woke up screaming. From that day on, she began to change again, but not like before. She would sit for hours, staring into the trees, talking softly to people who weren't there. Sometimes she'd laugh. Other times, she would weep with such sorrow the goats would cry with her. She no longer saw who would die. But she heard the voices of those who had. At night, they came to her. Sat by her fire. Spoke in whispers. Asked her to remember them. To carry their stories. To keep their names alive so they would not be forgotten in the spirit world. So Amaka became something else, not a seer, not a prophet. A keeper of the dead. Years passed. Children grew and told tales of Amaka the Whisperer, the woman who talked to the ancestors. Her hut became a place of peace. Those mourning loved ones came to her. She would sit with them, close her eyes, and listen. Then one morning, an old woman found her body sitting on a wooden stool, back straight, eyes closed. Peaceful. They say her face was smiling. And they say, just before her final breath, Neka came to fetch her, hand outstretched, red cap gone. And together, they walked into the forest, where the sun never sets and the dead no longer speak in pain. The end. Thank you for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and comment what you think in this story. I will appreciate it a lot.